Okay, good morning, everybody. So I'm very pleased to to introduce this launch event. So it's the first event, important event for the RESPECT project. So RESPECT project has been started in July last year, and so we decided to have this event to communicate about our project, but also to position the project within the European strategy regarding the energy transition. So thank you very much for being there. It has been more than 1 year since RESPECT project started. Day by day, we aim to produce significant results that will support the circularity of the European battery supply chain. Doing this will help pave the way for increasing competitiveness, strategic autonomy, and the stability of the European battery ecosystem. This will be achieved by developing innovative green recycling and materials recovery process, and thus supporting the growing lithium-ion batteries manufacturing in Europe. The main RESPECT objective, transforming the batteries recycling process and opening access to new sustainable and circular market in Europe along the lithium-ion battery value chain, thus reinforcing the security of supply and its strategic autonomy. A dedicated presentation and a video to more know about the RESPECT project will follow. Today, our
hello, can you hear us?
No, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. Okay, so after the first panel focusing on the lesson learned from other cluster, after that, we'll be moving on to the topic of clustering activity for project on sustainable, safe, and efficient recycling. During this session, 3 battery project representatives from Free4Lib, Rhinoceros, and RESPECT. The aim is to demonstrate that by working and discussing with our peers, we can perform better, we can find solutions, we can create bridges. Clustering is a key action for the battery sector, where disruptive innovation is at the core of the action. Last but not least, the final discussion will focus on R&D and more specifically, R&D project and the impact and support they could have on the creation of the EU battery value chain and the implementation of the new legislative requirements. For this launch event, we are very proud of the different panels and would like to give a special thanks to the European Commission for their support, as well as to Clarence for having organized it. We hope that all presentation and discussion will enlighten us on battery topics. Before starting, I would like to thank all speakers for being here today. Going more in detail during the session, let's welcome Philip Hawkins for the keynote speech about the Innovation Fund. Philip Hawkins, but you can move to Philip, is a policy officer at the European Commission as the Directorate General for Climate Action, more specifically in the unit Low Carbon Solution, Research and Low Carbon Technology Deployment. He works on the coordination and the programming on Horizon Europe, in particular Cluster 5, Climate, Energy and Mobility, with a special focus on fostering synergies between the European Framework Programme for Research and Innovation and the EU Innovation Fund. Before joining the Commission, Philip worked in investment management. He holds an Master Science degree in chemistry with molecular physics from Imperial College, London. I will now leave the floor to Mr. Hawkins, who is going to present the Innovation Fund, a major pillar and a good continuation of this project once they have brought their technology close to market. Mr. Hawkins, the floor is yours.
Good morning, and thank you for the kind introduction, and thank you also very much for the opportunity to present here today. Just before I continue to check, does the slides deck work? Yeah? Yes, excellent, great. Well, before starting, I just wanted to maybe set a little bit the scene about EU initiatives regarding batteries. Of course, we know, I don't need to tell you that batteries are an indispensable form of energy storage and that they are really a key technology in a transition to climate neutrality and to a circular economy. We know that global demand for batteries is increasing sharply and rapidly. And indeed, it is set to increase up to 14 times by 2030. And the EU itself could account for 17% of that demand. So with this in mind, the EU has a set of key regulatory, strategic and R&I initiatives dedicated to batteries, such as first and foremost the new battery regulation, which entered into force 2023, and that aims to minimize environmental impact in light of the exponential growth of new socioeconomic conditions, technological developments, markets and battery usages. So the regulation will aim to make batteries sustainable throughout the entire life cycle, from the sourcing of the materials to the collection, recycling and repurposing. So in the current energy context, the new rules propose the development of a competitive, sustainable battery industry. And this new batteries regulation will repeal in 2025 the existing batteries directive. In addition to that, we have the European Batteries Alliance, which aims to develop an innovative, competitive and sustainable battery chain in Europe. It brings together EU national authorities, regions, industry research institutes and other stakeholders across the battery value chain. And indeed, the Alliance has attracted the participation of 440 actors and around 100 billion in investment commitments, according to EIT Energy. And as a basis of this, we have the Strategic Action Plan on Batteries, which was adopted in 2018. And it sets out a comprehensive framework of regulatory and non-regulatory measures to support all segments of the battery value chain. And the one that I would like to highlight here, with relevance to today's discussion, is the strengthening of the industrial leadership through accelerated research and innovation programs, notably Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe. And a key pillar, of course, as well, in research and innovation and deployment is the BAT for EU partnership, a co-program partnership implemented under Cluster 5 of Horizon Europe, which aims for a competitive and sustainable European industrial value chain for e-mobility and stationary applications. On the public side, we have the European Commission, and on the private side, we have the Batteries European Partnership Association, BEPA. So this is how this public-private partnership works, which has over 222 members and a total budget of 1.85 billion from 2021 to 2027. So here you have the public side and the private side expected to contribute 50-50. So this is just to set a little bit the scene in terms of initiatives and regulation and what we have to really support the EU battery value chain. And what I would like to do now is give a bit of an overview of one of the key instruments, which is the ETS Innovation Fund. So the Innovation Fund is one of the world's largest funding programs for the deployment of innovative net zero technologies. It aims to bring to the market solutions to decarbonize the European industry and to support the transition to climate neutrality whilst fostering competitiveness. So really a key element of the Innovation Fund is to support the de-risking of innovative projects. The fund is financed entirely by so-called revenues from the EU emissions trading system, which is a CO2 taxation systems. So part of these revenues are used via the Innovation Fund to invest in net zero technologies. And because it's based on this emissions trading system, it means that the size of the fund itself is a function and is dependent on the carbon price. So assuming a carbon price of 75 euros per tons of CO2, this means that the fund has 40 billion euros at disposal between 2020 and 2030. In terms of coverage, what sort of technologies are covered by the Innovation Fund? Well, it covers energy storage, as a key sector. So battery components manufacturing, battery recycling materials, battery reuse, storage system scale up. We have projects already funded along all of these areas. But in addition to that, the Innovation Fund also supports projects in innovative renewable energy generation, carbon capture, use and storage, and the decarbonization of energy intensives. And what's worth noting maybe is that since the recent revision of the ETS directive, so the directive on which the fund is based, we'll have new sectors that will be covered, such as net zero mobility and buildings. In terms of how the fund works, it's via annual calls for proposals. This is for the regular grants that are distributed by the fund. And in terms of geographical scope, the projects to be eligible for the Innovation Fund must operate in EU member states plus Iceland, Norway or Liechtenstein. What the fund covers is up to 60% of a project's relevant costs for the grants. And relevant costs here, to understand what this means, is just the incremental additional costs that a project will incur in order to realize an innovation. And projects are selected by 5 award criteria, notably the expected level of greenhouse gas emissions avoidance, the degree of innovation, project maturity, replicability, and cost efficiency. And just as a mention, as an aside, is that in addition to the traditional and conventional grants that are dispersed, there will be also a new implementation mode with innovation funds via competitive bidding, or so-called auctions, which is meant to be a novel market-based financial instrument, and it is meant to cover not only 60% of the relevant costs, as is the case for the grants, but all of them, 100%. And indeed, now in autumn, in November, we'll have a first pilot auction for the production of renewable hydrogen. And depending on how this auction goes, it is not excluded that this competitive bidding tool can be expanded also to other relevant sectors. And just to give a bit of a flavor of what the Innovation Fund has achieved so far. So we've already had 3 large-scale calls and 3 small-scale calls, large-scale and small-scale referring to basically the size of the project. So distinction is made based on the capital expenditures of a project, and above a certain threshold, it's considered to be large-scale. So a project would have to apply to the dedicated large-scale call, and below the threshold is small scale. Now, I'm not mentioning the exact threshold because there's indeed a change, and there will also be a mid-scale bracket there, but this will all be communicated then for the next call. So as mentioned, the calls run annually, and overall, over 6.8 billion euros have already been provided so far in the 2020, 2021 calls and the 2022 large-scale calls. And indeed, going forward, we expect, I mean, this is still to be confirmed, but we expect that the next call could have a size of over 4 billion euros. So I think here the bottom line is just that the Innovation Fund is an instrument and a program that is growing and evolving. And in terms of sectorial coverage, so if we look at the project portfolio, the Innovation Fund, so just to highlight that this slide does not account for the 3rd large-scale call results, which have been communicated recently. So it covers the large-scale and small-scale for 2020 and 21, not 2022. But even just for these calls, we see that already 69 projects are part of this portfolio across 20 countries, with 155 beneficiaries, and the total expected greenhouse gas emissions avoidance of 215 megatons. And to highlight that from these projects, 10 are part of the batteries sector and the batteries value chain. And indeed, we see quite a strong representation of batteries in the small scale calls and not so much in the large scale. And also one of the focus points of the Innovation Fund is to ensure a sectorial and geographical balance. So there's strong attention put here, and this indeed can also be a criteria for in calls for proposals. But indeed, one of the messages I'd really like to focus on is on synergies, specifically the synergies along the EU innovation pipeline, meaning from the results coming out of research and innovation funding programs, notably the framework programs for research and innovation, Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe, and to take these results and in a way propel them to the market to support the commercialization via the Innovation Fund as a deployment tool. So here the aim is really to valorize and to increase the impact of R&I results, also including battery R&I results, and get them to the market. So it's all about the acceleration of this deployment of climate mitigation R&I solutions. And I think the schematic here just shows that there is indeed a nice pipeline to be made from, for example, Horizon Europe to the Innovation Fund, even though we know that in the Innovation Fund, of course, some of the higher TRL areas could run indeed in parallel to the Innovation Fund. And what's been done so far? So there has been quite a bit of focus and quite some efforts to support the specific Horizon Innovation Fund synergies. One of the concrete actions that has been taken is a workshop that took place at the beginning of this year in February, where the target audience were mature Horizon 2020 projects in the sectors covered by the Innovation Fund, including batteries. And with this audience in the workshop, to inform them about the funding opportunities provided by the Innovation Fund, and to share some lessons learned on how to basically approach the Innovation Fund with a strong application. So what have been sort of the tips and tricks to produce a strong Innovation Fund application. So here really the aim was that these mature R&I projects who are ready for the next stage in the pipeline to learn about Innovation Fund, know how to go about it. But a second part of the workshop was also to hear from the projects themselves and to understand what were the deployment barriers. And I would really encourage, if you're a mature Horizon or a mature R&I project, to look at the recording of the workshop. The whole day has been recorded. And I think I can drop the link probably afterwards in the chat. And another point just here is a dedicated topic in the Cluster 5 work program. It's a so-called coordination and support action in the Horizon Europe Cluster 5 work program 23-24, which is dedicated to synergies between Horizon 2020 projects and the Innovation Fund. The topic was co-written and co-funded between two clusters, 4 and 5, and it has 4 million euros at disposal for 4 consortia for each area of the Innovation Fund. And each of these consortia is to consist of partners from mature Horizon 2020 projects. And within these consortia, the partners are meant to work together to exchange best practices and to produce sound and strong Innovation Fund proposals. So the work of the consortia is to include preparing detailed plans for scalability, commercialization, and financial models, which are all needed for an Innovation Fund application and just to enter deployment in general. To work with key R&I organizations and public-private partnerships such as Bat4EU. But a key expectation of the consortia is as well to organize joint open events in order to disseminate this knowledge of best practices across the entire sector. So not just really to keep it siloed and shelved within the consortium, but to make sure that this is really shared with any relevant stakeholders and players in the sector. So for the CSA, this is a call that's already closed, and the consortia have been decided, but now we're really expecting that in the beginning next year that these CSAs will be operational, and that we expect results in the coming year and years. And with this, I hope that I managed to give you a bit of an overview of the Innovation Fund, of the synergies with R&I, and looking forward to the rest of the day here.
Thank you very much, Philippe. So it was very interesting. So we see better so the synergy between the battery, the Bat4EU and the Innovation Fund. So and the importance, and so Innovation Fund will be the mean to deploy the net zero innovative technologies. So thank you very much. So now we'll switch with a presentation of Respect project. So on behalf of project Respect project that I will present, so the Respect project. We will start with the video, a short video.
As the world switches from fossil fuel to emissions-free, electrification and transportation, batteries are becoming a vital tool to facilitate the energy transition. Global demand for batteries is increasing rapidly. Electric vehicles on the road are estimated to be 30 million by 2030 in the EU. In addition, EU lawmakers approved a law to effectively ban the sale of new cars fueled by petrol and diesel in the European Union from 2035. 18 partners from 9 European countries have joined forces to develop a sustainable, safe and efficient recycling process that would contribute to Europe's circular economy, strategic autonomy and clean energy. The RESPECT project is an EU-funded project under the Horizon Europe Research and Innovation Programme and the Batteries European Partnership, which aims to contribute to the European battery ecosystem and to the development of a sustainable battery supply chain in Europe. The main objectives of the RESPECT project are to transform, design and integrate the battery's recycling process, reduce energy consumption, CO2 emissions and costs of the processes in comparison to current recycling strategies. The RESPECT project's ambition is to close the loop of lithium-ion batteries recycling by designing, developing and implementing holistic, innovative, flexible and green recycling processes. This is based on pre-treatment steps followed by full hydrometallurgical and direct material recycling routes while considering environmental, safety and health aspects all along the lithium-ion battery recycling value chain. The main ambition is to put into practice a global process encompassing all the steps via 2 routes, a hydrometallurgical and direct recycling route. Following the adoption of the new EU battery regulation, all batteries collected must be recycled and with mandatory minimum levels of recycled contents in the new manufacturing of industrial, starting light and ignition batteries and electric vehicle batteries. These are set at 16% for cobalt, 6% for lithium and 6% for nickel by 2031. These objectives are embedded in a tailored 4-year work plan to develop innovative green recycling and materials recovery processes and support the growing lithium-ion battery manufacturing in Europe.
The context also will go quickly. So as Philippe mentioned previously, so effectively, so there are a huge demand for lithium-ion battery, and so the growth of this market will be more than 30% for the next decade. The consequence is an important lithium-ion batteries demand, and so we expect that more than 30 million of electric vehicles will be on the road by 2030. Okay, perhaps. Thanks. So as it has been mentioned in the video, so RESPECT aims to achieve efficient, sustainable, innovative, and safe battery recycling processes in the EU, encompassing new process capable of achieving more than 90% in weight, recovery rate, efficient and also efficiency, and supporting lithium-ion battery manufacturing in Europe. Main objectives. So we will implement efficient logistic solution for lithium-ion battery management, but also sorting. This project will enable lithium-ion battery safe desactivation at the industrial scale while limiting environmental impact, raw material resources, and cost. We'll use innovative separation technology for improving active material access. That will be an important point in our project. This project aims to improve life cycle assessment of each segment of the battery value chain. The project will also provide innovative and low carbon direct recycling, minimizing the CO2 emission, and will be able to recover to have a maximum recovery and high valorization of resource within batteries. So here, so we will highlight in this slide so that respect will be provide very efficient solution, and so we the efficiency of the project of the process is over, so the target from the SAR, for example. So we'll, for example, so for the cobalt and nickel, so we'll recover more than 95%, and also for the lithium more than 80% of recovery, with also high efficiency. Okay, so some fact about the project. So this project is EU funding project Europe under Horizon Europe Research and Innovation Program and the Battery for EU partnership, which aim to contribute to the European battery ecosystem and contribute to the development of the battery supply chain in Europe. So the duration of this project is 48 months. So the main topic is recycling. And so there are 18 organizations, 15 from the European Union, but also 3 associated partners, UK and Switzerland. So the budget, the total budget is more than 10 million euros, and the main part is funded by the Horizon Europe, and also there are funding from UK and Switzerland. Here also you have the map of the different partners. So it's a very a lot of countries contribute to this project, from France, Belgium, Great Britain, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Germany, Switzerland, and Spain. So we okay. So here a brief view of the main work package of the project. So the first work package will be dedicated to the battery supply, but also the deactivation. The deactivation is the first step of the pre-treatment, and it's very important, and it's very innovative. This deactivation will be performed in a specific liquid, and so avoiding thermal runaway and explosion, for example. The second work package is dedicated to the pre-treatment for the material concentration, and so at this, in this step, so we are able to recover separately the graphite as the first step, and the second step stage will be so the recovery of the black mass, but without graphite. And after, so we could recover the other material, the electrode, for example, but also the plastics, and that's important also the electrolyte. The third work package will be dedicated to the innovative environmental impact hydrometallurgy. So it's because in the project we investigate 2 routes. One is the hydrometallurgical route, and so we from black mass without graphite, we could recover and refine sulfate salts, metallic salts, in order to manufacture and to synthesize, and after manufacture new cells. And the second route that will be dedicated to the work package 4 is the direct recycling. And so in this work package, we'll investigate so the direct recycling. So directly from the black mass will provide, will transform and have the new active mass that will be used for the manufacturing of new cells. The work package 5 will be dedicated to the assessment related to the impact on health, environment, safety, and circular economy. The work package 6 will be dedicated to the dissemination and exploitation, and also the clustering and cooperation with funded project. And it's clearly this event, it's clearly a task of this work package. And the last work package is dedicated to the project management. Okay, here also would like only to highlight some, main innovative point. As I mentioned, so the first important innovation is it's in the work package 1, and it's the treatment and desactivation of the modules, the end-of-life modules. The second, it's for the pre-treatment, so the extraction of the material, and mainly the separation of the active mass from the graphite and the other elements. And in the work package 4, it's dedicated to the direct recycling. It's so the dedicated this innovation that we would like to highlight. It's the cathode recovery without destruction, and so it's important if we want to manufacture new cells after that. Okay. So only to indicate that even if we have the project has only 1 year, so we deliver some important documents, the communication plan, the list of requirements. That's the specification for the project, and so we have also a website. And so the main deliverable will be next year. Okay, so we could follow us in the different media, so LinkedIn, X, and not Twitter, and also so the web. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so now I will give the floor to Wouter.
Yeah. Wouter.
Hello.
Okay, Wouter. So Wouter is the executive director of the BEPAS, so the Battery European Partnership Association. And so thank you very much to attend this meeting, and also to moderate the first workshop that is dedicated to sharing best practice and common expertise to improve EU-funded research and innovation project efficiency and dissemination results.
Thank you, Justo. Thank you for setting this up on behalf of the Respect Project, and I want to thank you specifically as well to inviting me to hold this workshop on this important topic. I left Brussels to get away from the public transport strikes that are there, but apparently the bad luck is following me, so I'm now stuck in a train. I will be there for the panel, but I'll give a short introduction for the moment. Clustering is very important activity. In theory, it could lead to the better dissemination of results and an uptake of those results from the projects to the market, which is very important. It's become even more important since in this summer we saw the publication of the European Court of Auditors report on the battery landscape, where they point to the sort of missing step in having all these funded battery projects, but then bringing them to the market. So I'm very happy to see that the Respect Project has already put that in mind at the beginning of at the launch of their project, to already invite the Innovation Fund and have this workshop on clustering to see how we can disseminate results. I want to thank you as well for giving this platform right now, because the Commission actually sees clustering as one of the way forward to increase this innovation uptake. We will discuss this in the 2 panels, as already set out by Justo earlier in the session. First one, looking at best practices between projects that are already clustering right now, and the second one where we will look how we did implement it in the recycling world. So I would like to introduce the first cluster and first project, which is the Colabat cluster. It's focused on batteries, battery packs for automobility. And I think our first speaker for Colabat is Eduardo Miguel from the Icalan Institute. So without further ado, I would like to give you the word and tell us what Colabat is about and how you contribute.
Yeah, thanks a lot out there. So good morning. First of all, thank you all for having us here and for letting us show our cluster and share our thoughts. So together today with me also we have Marianne and Thomas that could be online and up to questions. So after that, I would like to go over an overview of the Colabat cluster and specifically on where of the battery value chain this cluster focuses its activity. So we mainly focus on our activity in the battery. I can't see very well the presentation. I'm sorry for that. So we focus mainly our activity in the battery pack manufacturing, and that's where we start from. We go after that through vehicle integration and use of those batteries. And after that, we make a slight jump into the repurposing and remanufacturing of batteries, electric vehicle batteries, and to the recycling process. So that's where our main activities and our main discussions are focused. And that being said, I would like to recall a little bit where this cluster comes from, and it comes from different projects that are all granted under the LCBAT 10 call. And that being said, we all have somehow similar objectives and similar expected impacts that are, of course, derived from that call. Our main objectives of the projects composing the cluster are to increase the energy density of the battery packs in electric vehicles and also plug-in electric vehicles, as well as shortening the charging times by means of high-power charging. So those are the two main objectives that we are overall facing. And related to that objectives, the expected impacts that we have are to reduce our battery system's weight by 20%. Second, extend our useful battery life to around 300,000 kilometers, while we can have an improvement of, again, 20% if in life cycle assessment, as well as improving the knowledge that we have in terms of module and pack sensorization and thermal management, quite linked again with the high charging capabilities. So these being the main objectives and expected impacts that we have, I would like to briefly present the 4 projects composing the cluster. Not going to go through the specific impacts that we are expecting because we just explained it right now and are going to be quite similar for all the projects. But I will go through the different approaches that each project is getting to get to those objectives. So first of all, the Helios project, in which we are going to see a combination of high energy and high power cells by means of modular design that it's scalable and uses battery modules and DC-DC converters in order to achieve that. It is also included an advanced BMS and multi-sensor unit using wireless technology. They also make use of digital twins and IoT cloud-based solutions, as well as developing fleet management software. And all this is going to be validated in a small city electric vehicle as well as a full-size electric bus. So that's the first project that it's approaching our objectives or their objectives like that. Second one would be Marvel, which is focusing on a easy and safe disassembly, automated disassembly process That is going to enhance the repairability of the systems and enhance the transition to second life. And all these being adaptable to any cell or any vehicle technologies that we can find. So that's their approach, also with a modular design. If we move forward, we have the Albatros project, which is going to be focusing on the sensorization and thermal management of the batteries that they are using. And in this specific case, they are going to be validating on a BMW i3 car. So that's their use case. Finally, we go to the last one, which is Liberty, in which we are facing the objectives by means of a cell-to-pack solution, together with an immersion cooling system, an enhanced safety system, and the BMS that it's also including innovative SOX algorithms. And all this is to be validated in a Mercedes EQC vehicle, which is our use case. So just a rough idea about each project. I will put the contacts in the end so you can have more information if you need to, or if you want to dig a little bit deeper. Sorry. And so finally, I would like to give you some more details on the structure of the Colabat cluster and our main particular goals. So the Colabat cluster is structured in 4 different subclusters, out of which 3 are already launched. So the first subcluster, which is going to be the A, it's going to be related to sustainability topics. After that, we are also facing testing topics in the second subcluster. Third one is about BMS technologies. And lastly, the modeling subcluster that is going to be treating about different ways of modeling our batteries, battery packs, and technologies we have in the projects. So after the structure, the main purpose of this cluster is to engage on different technical topics and to promote discussions between the different projects in order to identify synergies and to overall have a more rich experience about what we are facing in the projects, especially because we have quite similar objectives, if not the same ones. We expect to provide specific outcomes that are going to be valuable for the upcoming UO projects, as well as academia and industry. And for that, we are planning to disseminate our results in different dissemination events, and also potentially with white papers, guidelines, or journal papers. And that's what we are planning to do or doing actually. And so just stay tuned if you feel it like an interesting option. I also leave you here the contacts of the different projects if you are interested in more information. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Sorry for the slides. And there you go with the information of the subclusters, also project, sorry.
Thank you, Eduardo. Yeah, great overview. Interesting to see how you have sliced also different clusters out of this. I think that's something definitely we'll touch upon later. But now let me introduce the second cluster, the solid 4B cluster. Also a very interesting cluster as it spans projects both Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe. Together with us, we have Takwa Bedissa from ABE. I don't know if you will present it here for us today, but also looking forward to see what you are doing at Solid 4B.
Thank you so much. So I will be presenting with my colleague as well, Consolo. So First, I want to thank the Respect Project for giving this interest for the clustering activities and in general, and for Solid 4B specifically. So before giving more inputs about the Solid 4B cluster, which is a new cluster actually, please allow me to introduce the main contacts of the Solid 4B cluster, which is my colleague Consuelo. She is a solid state battery engineer. And she's the technical leader of the SpinMate project, and myself, Takwa Benissa, I'm managing the SpinMate and the Advagen projects, which are parts as well from the Solid 4B cluster. So, Consuelo. So here.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having us. The 7 projects under the Solid 4B umbrella share common ground. They're from 3 different calls, and they all are projects in lithium metal-based solid-state batteries. So we have projects Advagen, Aim for BOT, Hidden, Pulseline, Seatbelt, Solid, and SpinMate. And it is managed on behalf of SpinMate. We really try to foster collaboration between these 7 projects as they share such a common technical ground, and we're really encouraging exchanging best practices and networking between these projects. We're hoping to really contribute to the European battery value chain by bringing the 7 big projects in lithium metal-based solid-state batteries together.
I want to add something more on what Consuelo was mentioning. It's all the projects are are together, and we bring together 7 projects from different calls, actually, from Horizon Europe and Horizon 2020. So Hidden belongs to LCBAT 19, and for the remaining projects, they belongs to the 03 and 05 calls. So as I was mentioning, this cluster is just started. So we had our first webinar on the 26th of June. So it was about lithium metal anode production methods, state of the art, challenges, and future perspectives. It was an online webinar, and we had 1 representative per project. And also we had BIPA there to talk about the best practices, how it is really valuable to have clustering activities for those projects, and as well we discussed the different techniques used for lithium production. So as you can see here in this slide, so we had around between 100 and 150 participants for the first edition, and the overall rate of the webinar was 4.5. So it means that we had a lot of positive feedbacks, and even on social media we are reaching a good number of followers, which means that this cluster started having a good impact. And the argument is here because we are today here to talk about Solid 4B. Regarding the audience feedback, I will give this to Consuelo.
As you can see, our first webinar was quite specific. It was really focused on lithium metal, and we had the pleasure of inviting many different experts from the industry, talking about different techniques of lithium deposition, as well as industrial scale production of lithium metal anodes. So it was very specific, and as you can see, a lot of the audience learned new information, which was our big goal for that webinar, to really bring the lithium experts from the field and really benefit from the fact that we have 7 different projects. It's a lot of different partners from the industry, from different perspectives, different stakeholders. So we're really happy to see that the audience learned so much new information. And we also use that opportunity to collect sort of like what the audience is interested in seeing in the future, and what are to sort of get inspired for our next webinar and see what people want to learn about in the battery community. So actually, I think in light of the recent battery regulations and sort of like a lot of attention to it on a very policy and cost level, some of the audience suggestions included cost assessment, as well as raw material availability, recycling as well. And given that feedback, it fits very nicely with the event we're going to be attending soon.
Okay, so regarding the upcoming activities for the Solid 4B cluster, actually we will organize a side event as a part of the Circular Wallonia Days and the Seatbelt Consortium meeting. So it will be, the topic of this event will be mainly in a good harmony with what the audience was asking for and the theme of the Circular Wallonia Days. So we will discuss recycling on lithium metal and circular economy. So feel free to join us on the 12th of December in Liège if you are here in Belgium, or we will communicate more information through our social media channels, so you can join us online, as well as actually for those 2 days we confirmed the official date as well for the next workshop. It will be April 2024. So for this one, we just started working on it, so we will communicate more details about it. But yeah, this is all for Solid for B cluster. We will give more insights during the panel discussion. Thank you so much. So here you have our contacts, and yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was really great to see what you are doing. Even though you said, yeah, you just started, but there's already a lot going on. I myself, I will look to be in Liège at least for the meeting. So that's that will be great. So now we move on to the last cluster to present right now. With us is Georg Melzer Venturini from Eotama, and also presenting the
Right, I think that's me.
Cluster. So that's at least a great name and brings a lot of promise, Georg. So I'm looking forward what you are doing.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, everybody. Yeah. So the
Georg?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Super.
Yes.
So yeah. Thanks a lot for having us. The Battery Heroes. It was, well, so the Battery Heroes is just the 4 projects that all launched under the same call. We all started pretty much a year ago, and it's all about the pilot line production and the removal of volatile organic compounds. So it's also all going towards wet or dry manufacturing processes on a pilot scale. So obviously we are very, very close to each other in what we're doing technically, and we all have pretty much the same timeline, which obviously makes it interesting because we'll be reaching our various development goals pretty much at the same time. And I think that's something where it can get really interesting, because obviously, especially when we're talking about attending events together or doing workshops together, we really have found that collaborating, I mean, it's not an official cluster in any shape or form. I mean, you know, the limit to the cooperation is actually that we have a website. But informally, we do meet probably every other month, just to make sure that we know what the other's doing, what's going on, what interests are showing. Now, obviously, when you're working so closely together, it's a very small group of organizations that are playing this game, and there's actually a lot of overlap also in the consortia. You know, the coordinator of one project is a partner in the other project. So the question always is, you know, is the competition over? I mean, yes, we were all selected for funding, but after the call is before the call. So it's just we're also to a certain degree coordinating our efforts now in going forward on new topics. Yeah, so there is obviously a little bit of competition left amongst the group. So we really have to focus on what are the activities where we all win. And those are also easy to identify. It's, every time when we organize events, it's a lot easier doing it with a larger group. You come into events and congresses with a lot more mass. I mean, one thing we're trying to do right now, for example, is get a special session at the TRA in Dublin next year, which is proving to be a little bit tricky, but already there. When you're coming in as 4 projects, you don't get the little crappy stands in the corner. You can take the big stands and share it in the beginning. All those things. And I mean, when you look at dissemination and communication plans in the EU project, they do follow a very common trend. So the needs that we have are very closely associated. So it's really easy to see, where does it make sense to collaborate, and what are then the parts where you can't collaborate anymore. Because obviously in a lot of the projects, there are cell manufacturers as partners. And for cell manufacturers, the know-how that they have and the production processes, that's one of their core. I mean, that's their IP. So sharing on a technical level is obviously a lot more difficult, but the non-technical aspects and the especially everything that goes in the communication dissemination section, or just common problems that we all have in non-technical aspects are it's a nice group where we can all share. Yeah. So obviously there's a couple of things that we can't collaborate on, but what we really try to, in theory it sounds so easy. Yeah, we'll do joint dissemination events, blah blah blah. And so what we're actually doing is we're holding regular meetings with every usually the communication group, but also with the technical guys in the and girls in the projects, to really make sure that everybody knows what's going on, that everybody's aware of what activities are going. And to some events it's not always necessary for everybody to go, so maybe we'll send would have representatives going that then represent the entire cluster, the entire group. So a little bit of sharing each other's PR load, that really helps. And I mean when you start doing that, and you really start to appreciate the different skill sets that everybody has and that everybody brings in, it really starts to flow a lot easier. It takes a little bit. We just had a workshop yesterday, actually, because I'm in San Sebastian right now at CDTech for one of our project meetings. So a couple of the other battery heroes joined virtually, and we had a very fruitful discussion about what can we do, and it's a lot of times that during this discussion the ideas actually come up, right? So all of these, I mean, sure, you're doing it anyway, but anybody who's thinking about doing clustering activities, one of the important things is regularly have a video call for an hour or two just to discuss, and ideas will pop up, and that's something that you can really build on. That's it from my side. This is actually a screenshot from one of our last calls. So thank you very much, and that's it from me.
Walter, can you hear us? Yeah, he's connecting.
Okay.
if needed, I can take the floor and start with the round of questions while Wouter has a better connection. We do not hear you, Wouter, actually. But otherwise, I'm going to start with the first round of questions for all participants. So thank you very much for your short presentation. It was very interesting. And I will start with a very general question. So how often do you interact between your project? And does it happen centrally, or are there also direct contracts between, for example, work package leaders of communication staff? Thank you, everyone. So if you can reply to this first question, that would be great. Thank you. Maybe we can start with Colabat.
Yeah, maybe I would say Edu, but I can take over. Hopefully you can hear me here from my mini vacation terrace here.
Yeah, we can hear you well, Thomas.
So I'm Thomas Justinsky. I'm also working in the Colabat cluster. So what we did is not only these regular calls, of course, with all the communication dissemination people involved, but as Edo explained, we built at least 3 running already, and maybe hopefully a 4th one, so-called subclusters. So where we can discuss technical issues. One issue was, for example, on BMS, so very technical into the battery management. One was on LCA, which is a little bit broader. And here in these subclusters, so we set up not every month, but we try to keep it something between ad hoc and a little bit irregular. So it's a structured way in order to identify. And the next step will be then that we plan a series of webinars starting hopefully next month to the public, so to all stakeholders, make it public, and give an overview what's happening closed doors in these projects in a nutshell to see, okay, is this really relevant for the stakeholders and get their feedback back. So we have already organized these technical discussions beside the overall dissemination discussions and try to link them both together.
Thank you very much for this clarification. May we also have the point of view of solid phobia?
Hello?
Yeah.
So for us, actually, to facilitate the communication within because we have 7 projects involved in Solid 4B cluster. So what we did is we created a specific Teams channel to facilitate the communication with, we made it as a SharePoint. And there we have all the coordinators of the 7 projects, plus the communication and dissemination managers. So there we are working on at the same time on the files, on the agendas, and from the very beginning, actually, we had meetings with the coordinators and the communication and dissemination managers to set a clear roadmap for the activities of Solid 4B cluster. And honestly, when it needed, we are arranging meetings, we are sharing minutes. It's like a board. So we are exchanging everything there, and we are setting plans for all our upcoming activities. So, for example, for the agenda of the next workshop, really it was done so quick, and from like a SpinMate point of view, because we are leading this cluster on behalf of SpinMate project. So for us, the main and official communicators for the 7 projects are the project's leaders. So they are discussing internally with their partners and give us input who will be presenting and what will be the topic.
Thank you so much. Maybe Beatrice, yours want to add something?
Yeah, I mean, at this time right now, it's we're primarily working on dissemination activities that we're collaborating. We're looking a little bit to see if there's a natural growth because obviously new projects are getting funded all the time. So there's a little bit of an orientation of what we're going to do to expand, but primarily it's what we're doing right now is dissemination, but I actually like the idea of having focus groups on special topics. You know, especially if we're thinking about dry manufacturing. There's probably a lot of exchange that we could do. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Does your mic now work,
Yeah,
Wouter? Yeah. Okay.
My microphone works still. Apparently, my camera doesn't. So I see myself.
Yes,
but you
yes, we
don't
can see
me.
you. We can see you.
Okay,
Please go on.
okay, no, well, at least I'm installed. So thank you for filling in there, Elizabeth. Really, the coordinator stepping in their role here at the Respect. So no, yeah, it was very interesting to see your overviews and already get this lesson learned from the Solid 4B cluster, just to ease the means of communication as much as possible between your partners to easily set up things. I think that's a very good takeaway. We just heard Georg also trying to establish a presence at the TRA and other high level meetings. Thomas, maybe for you at Colabat, you were present at the last TRA and you organized a big meeting there, a big presentation. Do you think that it helps being in a cluster to do so?
Oh, definitely. As Georg mentioned, it's easier for a cluster to get a foot into the door of these big events, and these big events are necessary for two reasons. So first of all, we're getting public money from the European Commission, and we have to show what we are doing to the stakeholders. So there's an obligation for dissemination, not only to keep it closed doors in the ivory tower, but to show what we're doing. And these platforms like TRA or European Sustainable Energy Week or Battery Innovation Days are great platforms to do so. And as a cluster, it's much easier to get in. But on the other hand, I must say, there's still a lot of pain points. So it's not that we automatically get invited. So we have to apply. And sometimes the organizers do not realize that as a cluster, or even if we put clusters together or try to combine clusters with others, that this makes it more interesting for the audience. But it's a little bit off their usual way, off the box, what they as an organizer like. So it's very easy. Okay, you have a project or you have a speaker. Cluster. Okay, and another cluster. So I understand. So, but the bottom line is you should make it easier for clusters to join these events, invite them, make some co-creation workshops, whatever, because this is a win-win situation. So we can bring in really interesting research and innovation topics in an understandable way. And we get a platform to communicate to all these stakeholders, which is a huge event. It's a great variety of people there. This is not only battery people, there are e-mobility people, there are green people, green transport, and so it's a very nice situation. But so my claim is here: please make our life easier. Thanks.
That's a point taken, Thomas. Just from a researcher point of view, within such a cluster, maybe Eduardo, you can shine a light on this. It's like, yes, you can collectively apply to bigger platforms, but is it then how do you decide who will present and what findings you want to bring to the footlight as a whole cluster? Is that more of a discussion, or is it like how do you reconcile all these different interests among the different projects?
Yeah, actually, that's one of the topics there. I mean, as Thomas said, it's really rich for a cluster or for an event to have a cluster in there, because there are many partners involved. Topics could be faced in many different ways. We can have a bigger portfolio on topics to get into an event, and that decision making is also easier if we have more actors, and so it's just easier to choose and to see which partner is willing to share different topics or not, and setting that baseline. It's also important, but I would say it's richer since we have more actors.
A question for Takwa and Consulu from Solid 4B. I saw parts of your first clustering event. It was actually very technical on or tackling a real technical question. How did you go about to find what are the technical questions that are across your projects a problem, and how and is this something that you think you will do further in the future, or will you also try to have more general meetings?
Right. Well, given that our cluster has a very defined identity, and we really unite projects on solid-state batteries with lithium metal, it was kind of easy for us to decide that the first workshop would be about lithium metal. And we wanted it to be quite specific as well, just to like really give a chance to our partners to shine and bring their expertise to the table. And I think it's important that, of course, we had quite a lot of participants, and we want everybody to be able to, for everybody, this workshop to be quite accessible and not make it super technical. But we do think that targeting a specific topic was quite successful because it brought us structure and it allowed for like really in-depth discussion to take place. And while that was very nice, we're also, of course, very open to having a more having workshops on more general topics. You know, we are 7 projects with solid-state batteries, and it ranges from 3D printing to PLD to like we have projects that are focused on upscaling. We have projects that are focused on polymer systems, on sulfide systems, and it's solid state. So it's something that's really interesting to the public right now. So I think we feel a bit of a responsibility to really use that opportunity and organize events about solid state batteries, but also, as we mentioned before, in our last webinar, a lot of people were actually very interested in recycling and cost structure and availability of raw materials. So we're also very much interested in that as well. And we're looking forward to also sort of like venture into that area as well. Yeah, so I think we'll keep it as a mix of very technical, you know, very focused webinars, as well as just more general and for not just solid state batteries, but for just more general battery themed workshops. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good to hear, and yeah, it really looked like it worked.
Thank you.
From your perspective, like the other 2 clusters are all projects from the same calls with similar timelines, roughly. You have united calls from even different framework programs from Horizon 2020 that are almost finishing, and projects that are just starting on the Horizon Europe. Do you see a handover there between those projects, or how do you marry their different stages that they're in?
Okay.
Right. I think this is a nice question for Takwa. Yeah.
Okay. So as you were mentioning, we have from LCBAT, which is Horizon 2020, and from Horizon Europe. So here we have kind of the overview from the beginning of a European project till the end. So and plus, as what Consuelo was mentioning, all the projects, they have a common ground, which is the lithium metal on solid state batteries. So we are trying to learn from the experience from the old projects, to learn the best practices, how to manage, how to communicate and disseminate as a cluster, as a team. So now we are thinking actually as well to create QR codes. So if one of the projects can attend a meeting or an event or a conference, they can disseminate the full cluster. So this is something as well that we are thinking about. And plus, as I said, we are in different phases. So we are learning from their experiences. For example, we have Hidden from LCBAT, so we are learning from their experiences, like the most important things that we should apply for the new projects.
Yeah. So yeah, this is mostly on the process side, like how to structure the program, your project, how to communicate? Is that the biggest exchange there, or is it also like technical transfer between the projects on different phases?
Actually, the projects, they are like they are using different techniques. So we are having the full picture of the lithium production of on solid state batteries, which is something really important. So even for the new networking and for the upscaling challenges. So for example, for one of the workshops that we are aiming to prepare is about upscaling, to discuss the upscaling in all the, and specifically the challenges on the upscaling for those projects, and we can learn from each other. I know that 7 projects, it's not that easy to go to share really sensitive information. So we agreed from the beginning that we will share the best practices, but not really the sensitive information. So that's why for us, and we try to keep it so specific and related to the lithium. So it's from all the sides, we can say that we are learning from each other. And as well,
Okay.
I mean, I'm here. I want to take this chance to thank all the coordinators, because really with 7 projects, it's not always that easy, but everyone is, when I'm reaching them, so everyone is trying to do his best or her best to make this cluster works, and to really share what they learned from previous experiences, or even from what they are running right now as ongoing projects.
You have a lot of experiences already in how do you see it with your product? They're just starting. Is it already something that you discuss? How to
Sorry, we cannot hear
get
you.
results from this project?
I couldn't understand anything.
And hello. Hello there.
Upscaling in the cluster. Okay, yeah, that's a funny one, and it's something we sort of figured out yesterday. Because obviously, like when we're working on pilot lines in our project, the next step is obviously upscaling, and in the last call, which must have been, had a deadline about a year ago, there were the gigafactories were addressed. So we actually have, this is technically we haven't asked them yet. This is just what we want to do, is we want to bring the 2 funded gigafactory projects into the Battery Heroes cloud. We still have to decide which hero they're going to be. But I think it's a really, really interesting step, and what we really want to do is say, well, I mean, there's obviously an overlap of participants to a certain degree, so we know who we're talking to, but to really go from these 4 pilot line studies then to the full scale project, and I think it makes a lot of sense to have a close collaboration there as well. Both projects started in July, if I'm not mistaken. So that's something where somebody will be getting an email from me very soon. But if there's other scale-up projects in the room, I'm happy to hear about it. We're not ignoring anybody. It's just we're addressing those people that are on our radar. And if you're not on my radar, please beep.
Okay, Walter, your mic is off.
Walter, we can't hear you.
We're very sorry about this technical problem. Walter just send a question in the chat, so he would be also interested in Colabat upscaling plans. Thank you.
Okay, I know, Thomas, if I could give my opinion now, and you can add your perspective also. So about upscaling, well, we are quite in a mature phase of our projects right now. We are past the middle, so now really focused more on disseminating some results or disseminating our activity. So probably to that extent, that could lead in some upscaling. But I would say we are more focusing now on disseminating that. But yeah, potentially could also lead in upscaling. As you said, also gathering projects from other calls sounds like an interesting plan and something to take into account. But we'll see how that evolves. Thomas, maybe.
Yeah, thanks, Walter, for this question. So it is an urgent topic, and we have postponed this a little bit because we were struggling, I think, at least Helios, my project, but also the other projects. So with issues at the beginning, so we have some delays we are facing, and then our goal is to now finalize the prototype. So we need to show demonstrators, all 4 projects, that our technologies also are feasible and technically working. Of course, we need to think about upscaling. So what's next? What is the life after the project? Honestly, we have not discussed this on a technical level. As it was said, we are more into the dissemination now of results and trying to find common webinars and common results. This is something we need to discuss as a cluster. What is the life afterwards? So how can we use synergies and maybe also look for these like innovation funds or avenues for potentially bring these technologies then in some point in time to the market. On the other hand, we're competing. I mean, all 4 batteries, if you put it on the shelf in a supermarket, could be more or less for the same customer. But I'm kidding. No, of course. So we can use a lot of synergies here. Take an example, the BMS system or thermal management, which is more a concept than it's really a device. So yeah, I think it's in a cluster, it's easier because you have a common ground, you have worked together, and that's definitely on our agenda. And I'm curious. Yeah.
I hope you can hear me again right now. We're running towards the end of this session. I wanted to ask to the different clusters what's next for for you. Maybe start with solid for B. So
I think I heard you. I couldn't hear a lot of the question, but I think you're asking what's next for us. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
so.
I think so. Yeah. Well, as we mentioned earlier, we're going to be present at the Circular Wallonia Days, and we are working right now and organizing the agenda for our upcoming hybrid workshop that's going to take place in the end of April. And we'll definitely be sure to communicate that with you. I think for us, we are still quite a young cluster, and we're really hoping to grow quite a bit. We really are, especially now, I think with the European Commission putting a lot of attention on clustering and collaboration between the calls, we're very focused on encouraging networking and helping people find potential partners for their upcoming European projects, as well as just collaboration between different stakeholders in the European battery industry outside of European projects as well.
Yeah. Good start.
Oh,
It's
Walter,
okay,
we
it's
really
okay.
can't hear you.
Yeah, it's really difficult for this.
I'll just go next.
It's just I want to add something as well about our upcoming plan. So we are planning actually after a discussion with all the cluster partners to start writing a paper on the best practices and lesson learned from clustering activities. And I think we have a plan because we are just a young cluster, so we can start the first one with the process, how to bring people together, etc. And let's see after like 1 year from now what will be the outcomes, and we can illustrate it in another paper, because I know that for example, for all the projects we have high targets of publishing, we have high targets of networking. Yes, this is mainly let's say our upcoming activities. So for now, we just started the discussion, and yeah, you will see more on our LinkedIn channel. That's it for Solid for B for now. Let's hear from the others, so at least we can learn from them, because they are in mature phase, and why not, we can collaborate together. We are open as clusters, we can collaborate together to do something, events or papers, white papers. So feel free to contact us.
Yeah, Taco, I'll jump right in there. So when you're preparing this this report on clustering activities, I'd be really interested in supporting you there. So if you want my help, just send me a quick email and I'll contribute what I can. Because it's a really good idea to not let everybody run in and make the same mistakes that we've made, and do a lot of learning in the process. As far as Battery Hero next steps, I mean, there's two things that are coming up. One is obviously looking at growing the cluster. We had a discussion on that yesterday, and we want to stay with the pilot line and upscaling to factory thematic. We want to stick to that. That's basically the only thing, so that because growing for the sake of growth doesn't really make a lot of sense. But to really saying this is the activity that we want to be clustering around. And the other big activity that's obviously coming up, as I mentioned earlier, is the TRA in Dublin, which is a very broad event, which is everything in the area of transports, and batteries, just a small sector. And I think there it actually makes a lot of sense to come in as a cluster, because having a battery stand here and a battery stand there doesn't make a lot of sense. But having one central place, I think this is where we talk about batteries, and then the other stands touch on all the other subjects. So I'm really looking forward to that. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I see that Water just reconnected.
Yeah, I hope I have better connection. Can you hear me now?
Not perfect, but you can try. Otherwise, I will. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Wouter, your connection is very bad. I'm just going to, yeah, to just thank all the panel participants for this very interesting discussion on the lesson learned from all the clusters. It was very interesting, and I think it's a good introduction for the next discussion that we're about to have on clustering activities. So thank you very much to all of you. Thank you so much. And we are now going to maybe introduce the next speakers, if I may. So there is David Storer from CLEPA, who is going to present, to speak on behalf of the Respect project. There is also Axel Tuja from Alioner for the Free for Lib project. And finally, Nader Akil from P&O Innovation Belgium for the Rhinoceros. So the idea is to discuss about the clustering activities for the project on sustainable, safe, and efficient recycling processes. So maybe we can start with a very short roundtable so that everyone can introduce himself. And we will start with the first round of questions. If Wouter doesn't come back, I will moderate this session. Thank you so much. And we can go on the next slide right now. So David, please, you can speak first.
Yeah, sure. I have a short presentation which I will share as well. Can you hear me okay, first of all?
We hear you very well, yes.
Oh, okay, great. All right, I'm going to share a short presentation with you because I'm actually going to talk to you about something called the Cluster Hub. So we've already heard before from Justo about the Respect project. So instead, I'm going to talk about another cluster called the Cluster Hub, which is focusing on the production of raw materials for batteries from European sources. Just 2 words about myself. I am David Storer. I am the Director of Research and Innovation at CLEPA. And CLEPA is the Association of Automotive Suppliers. So basically, we have all the different parts of the supply chain, the automotive supply chain, in our membership. And of course, those companies that are involved in battery production are also welcome to join CLEPA. We have about 3,000 members, so it's a very large organization. And we are basically the whole of the supply network feeding the automotive manufacturers. So yeah, I'm going to talk to you very briefly about this Cluster Hub. It has 12 projects currently. All of these projects are ongoing, apart from the first one, Crocodile, that finished recently. And the idea was to put together these different projects that are all focusing on a similar topic, which is the production of raw materials. And that includes, of course, recycling, let's say mining of waste as well. And of course, we're very open to other projects joining. In fact, yesterday, there was another project that applied to join. We're very open, of course, like all the different clusters. So again, if you are interested in joining this Cluster Hub, then feel free to join using the contact there. What's it all about? Let me just go to the next slide quickly. So the idea is to bring together, obviously through these different projects, many different organizations, the different partners in the project. And basically, we're covering most of the supply chain. Like I said, the focus is on the material side and the materials processing side. But of course, the different members are involved in different parts of the supply chain as well, from cell pack and manufacturing and basically getting to the full battery system at the end of the chain. I think we all know the why. We've heard it before. We're all very familiar with the fact that the battery market is increasing rapidly, and we need to upscale the production of lithium-ion batteries in Europe very quickly over the coming years in order to meet the targets that we've set ourselves in Europe for, let's say, zero emission or low environmental impact transportation. Road transportation is our focus here. And I think it's important to mention that not only do we need to inform about sort of technological process, we also need to really be very clear about what the challenges are, about the cost and the uncertainty that we have in terms of sourcing the materials. And of course, in the technological exchange, we need to be very clear about how we can optimize the different processes and technologies. And that is where Respect, in particular, is focusing. It's really doing a deep dive into the different opportunities we have for direct recycling of materials from battery waste. So, that's one of the projects that's really focusing on this very important technical area. And of course, like all the other clusters, it's all about expanding the network, organizing forums for discussion, interacting with the European Commission and identifying future challenges. And then, let's say, the Holy Grail, which we perhaps can really focus on in the discussion later, is how to foster new innovations, how to take the research that is being done in the different partners, with the different partners, but really try to make something which is innovating the product. And there, as Wouter mentioned before, there is a gap. How do we move from research to innovation, product innovation? And I think we can talk about that during the discussion. So thank you very much for this opportunity to present the Cluster Hub. Again, if you're interested to join, then please contact us. Thank you.
Hello, I should be back right now. People should be able to hear me.
Yes.
Sorry for that. Thank you, David, for the introduction. So let's now look at the other projects in this hub, starting with Axel from Alienor, who will represent the Free4Lib project.
Yes, thank you very much, Wouter, and thank you as well to the Respect project for inviting us here. We are very, very happy to have the opportunity to, of course, present our project, but most of all, to talk about clustering activities, because it's of course a tremendous part of what we want to achieve throughout the project. So it was already very interesting to have the first panel, and we will have questions and later on. Yes, I will first present maybe Free4Lib project very quickly. I don't know whether, yes, I have control of the presentation, so I just prepared like 2 slides very quickly, because I think the most important part is just question and answers. But I have to go back to my presentation. Wait just a few minutes. Okay. Well, in the meantime, maybe I can, by the time I get to the slides, then just a few words about Free4Lib. Of course, it has been funded by the Horizon Europe program through the same call as Respect, or as results we will talk a bit later on the safe, sustainable, and efficient processes for lithium recycling, battery recycling. And basically, we are a team of 21 organizations from 6 countries, EU and Turkey as well. And yes, we do represent. Sorry, it's a bit hard. Sorry, here we go. So we do try to tackle basically the whole recycling processes for lithium-ion batteries. So we have a holistic point of view with basically developing 21 technologies or processes that would cover the entire lithium battery value chain. So that's from basically dismantling through robotically supported tools, as well as having a full battery pretreatment technologies when it comes to hydrofragmentation, mechanical of black mass, fused polymers, and so on, as well. About 6 or 8 material recycling technologies, where we would dive into how to recycle electrodes, black mass, polymers, metals, and so on. And then the technology that you cannot recycle, but then you can reuse, such as the electrodes or some cells. Then we would dive into it and yes, basically try to achieve more efficient, more sustainable, and more and safer processes. I think one of the core as well aspects of our project is the development of a battery passport and also battery recycling modeling platforms. This is something that is very important nowadays, due to the battery regulation, notably that sets out basically the requirement of battery passports. So our project is developing guidelines on battery passports and also battery sustainable design, so eco design, to ensure that from now on batteries would be much easier to recycle because the design would be already fit for that. And finally, yes, indeed, we have some QR labeling and working on ensuring that also the battery will be circular and also the data would be much more transparent to the people in charge of recycling the batteries. As I mentioned, we are 20 partners from 7 different countries. So we started our activities 1 year ago about under Horizon Europe. You can also find us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and on our website. And here I would also highlight the fact that we just so it's 1 year in, and of course the cluster activities will become more and more important as we will soon reach mid-time of the project with many results to come and to disseminate. So this is why I think this workshop again is very and yes, happy to answer questions a bit later on. Thank you.
Great overview, Axel. Really interesting how you cover the same topic but have slightly different viewpoints on it as well. That will be interesting to collaborate on. Next up, we have Nada Akil from P&O Belgium, who will present the Rhinoceros project, the third call in this cluster. Nada, also very pleased to see you here, and yeah, looking forward to see what Rhinoceros is bringing to the table here.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. And I would like first to thank the Respect Project for inviting us for this clustering activities, or at least to discuss, let's say, about the importance of the clustering activities. So I have a...
hello, I'm sorry for interruption. Can you please take control over a presentation? Can you change the slides? Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I have first a small presentation about the project itself, and then I will also show some slides about the cluster hub that David also presented at the beginning. So first about the project, the Rhinoceros was funded by the Horizon Europe, and it stands for Battery Reuse and Direct Production of High-Performance Cathodic and Anodic Material and Other Raw Material using low-cost and environmentally friendly technologies. So the project coordinator is a research center from Spain, Tecnalia, and we have 16 partners from 9 countries, and the budget received from the EU, it's around 9 million euros. So the project started 1st September 2022, about 1 year ago, and then it will be running for 4 years. I will not stress more the importance of, let's say, trying to find the new materials for this big wave of batteries, and then the importance amount of batteries that need to be produced in the coming years. And then we hope that, let's say, Rhinoceros, it will support the recycling of those batteries in the best possible way in order to contribute to the production of raw material from those batteries to feed back the battery manufacturing in Europe. So this is one of the main objectives of the project. Basically, just a few, let's say, information about the techniques that we are using in the project. So basically, we will have 2 main axes of research. The first one is the automatic dismantling and let's say reuse of battery models for the batteries that they are working, that we think that they can go for a second life before recycling. And then the second axe of research for the batteries that they are not working is to go for recycling in order to recover the material. And here we are using two different approaches also for the recycling. One, it's based on the thermal routes where batteries are calcinated with let's say, in the industrial process. But here, the advantage in this route that we are going to recover some of the electrolyte and the fluorinated compounds. And then the second route will be related to mechanical shredding, where we are going also to recover the electrolyte and some of the polymers. Both routes, they will produce black mass that will be treated within new technologies in order to recover the lithium, but also produce a kind of precursor material directly that can be reused in the anode and the cathode of the batteries. And then we will demonstrate that this process on a small battery level, that those materials are valid for to be reused into batteries. Also, all the waste streams or the residues that are coming from different processing will be treated with new technologies that we are going to also develop in this project. So this is a little bit the topic, the main topic of the rhinoceros. Of course, the rhinoceros was funded under the same
Can I ask you to
topic.
speed up a little bit, Nader?
Sure. So it was funded the same call topic with other projects. So we are really like sharing a big part of the value chain, and I think there are a lot of knowledge that can be shared between those projects. So, well, just like a few words about the cluster hub. So that was indeed, let's say, started last year with those projects that they are mentioned here, about more than 10 projects now, but this is expanding. And then we have also identified the mission and the objective of this cluster hub, as you can see. But also, it's interesting for maybe the discussion later on about what would be the audience perspective and what the people are waiting as a main output from this cluster hub, that we have tried to make a survey and then ask the people a specific question about what they are waiting for from this cluster hub that we can discuss later on. And just to mention that one of the key topic is that this cluster hub member, the cluster hub member are going to meet every year during the raw material week physically. So we will have our meeting on the 16th of November, and the Rhinoceros project will share already some information which are related, for instance, to the acceptance criteria for the use of battery in second life, and then other information about one of the key technologies that used for direct production of material. So this is it from my side, and happy to discuss further.
Yeah, everybody note in their agenda the cluster hub meeting. So that's very interesting. Thank you as well, Nader, to see what's going on. So David, you're the sort of work package leader within the Respect project on this. You've also are, I think, in one of the clusters at least that was mentioned before. So what have you seen in the past as either from the projects that you were in or from other clusters that you see, okay, that's what we need to get right here for this project?
Okay, I mean, in the past, I've been involved in many projects. I have to say, I was previously working for an automotive manufacturer. And what I can see in general in projects is there's a lot of desire to collaborate in terms of pre-competitive activities, which is what we're talking about here, essentially. It becomes a completely different matter when we're trying to actually innovate a product and take that product to market. it's a totally different environment. We have to be very careful also in terms of compliance. You know, what we see is a completely different chain that needs to be created when we're taking a product to market. And I think, you know, sometimes we're a little bit naive, perhaps, in thinking that research activities are automatically going to become innovative products. You know, we heard before about this pipeline from research to innovation. You know, what we can do is try to encourage that as much as possible. And here, obviously, with the batteries manufacturing in Europe, we're basically creating a new industry. But we do have to be, I think, realistic in our ambitions. What we can achieve through clustering and sharing information between projects is one thing and very, very important. But at the same time, it's different, in my view, from actually taking the results of some of these projects and converting them into innovative products that go into the market.
Okay, so better research, create a platform for better research by exchanging results and better dissemination between the different players, and then that will lead to a better research ecosystem, which might lead to better innovation. So
let's hope that becomes a catalyst, let's say, for innovation, but it doesn't necessarily be that. But we do need to get the right players around the table, so then the industrial partners can take over and lead that into an innovative product that hits the market.
Yeah, we already saw that Nader has some good results to share at the next meeting. Axel, do you already? How's FreeForLib progressing? Do you think that you also have something to share soon?
Yes. As a matter of fact, in 20 days we will have a general assembly, so we will discuss about what we can disclose. I know some of our partners had made very interesting reports on the status and the end of life battery as such, and also we're talking about demonstrations and so on. So we hope to provide as well some results to the annual workshop within the cluster. Okay, nice. That's very interesting. I'm on my way to the Joint Research Center, and I'm sure that they will also be very interested in those end of life results. So I will lead them to FreeForLib as well. Based on what you heard before in the cluster discussion, was there something that stood out for you in terms of how you could improve the collaboration? Maybe Nader.
Yes, I think, I mean, well, I mean, just to mention that I think with those clustering activities, of course, that you have some project that they have really sharing a lot of things in common, such as in our projects and let's say on this 3 project, which they can really collaborate directly because I mean, even in our project, for instance, we are looking at 3 different ways or 3 different routes, hydrometallurgical routes or electrosynthesis route to produce direct material. So basically, at the end, we are going to benchmark those routes, even within our project. So I think it would be interesting, I mean, at the end of those projects to see which routes are really the most viable routes in terms of cost and in terms of environmental impact, because this is I mean, we are tackling only 3 routes, but I think the other project also, they have their own way. So it would be really interesting to do benchmark and see which ones that they will be the most interesting ones to make it for the further upscaling and then holds the most important promises. So this is about those 3 projects that they can really benefit from each other, from the technologies they develop. And sometimes they are some complementarity between those projects that they are not necessarily covering. For instance, in the respect, I don't think they are covering very much the automatic dismantling and reuse. So they can probably also, I mean, they can benefit from, or at least some of the partners, they can benefit from this research. We are not covering, for instance, the battery passport aspect, while the other project is covering it. So we can benefit from this, and I think there is always a complementary way to collaborate together.
Yeah. that's clear for the content. I think there's a lot of territory to begin by. How do you see it on the process side? Like, did you see something in there that you said, okay, hey, that's a joint teams or something? I see David nodding. Did you get some lessons learned from there?
Yeah, so I picked up on what Georg said initially, and then Takwa also really amplified. This mix really of very technical workshops and higher level workshops. Now, I think that's really important. You know, we tend to be drawn more towards a higher level workshops, a bit like this one that we're having today, which are great when you want to, you know, exchange objectives, talk about objectives, and also reach out to a wider audience. And indeed, you know, our role as CLEPA in these projects as partners, industrial partners into the discussion, and that's really useful. But at the same time, I really think it's vital that we do have these specific technical sessions where technical experts from the different projects are getting together, because that's where the real strides forward will be made. You know, if we just keep it on a high level, we're not going to get that far. Instead, if we really think carefully about how we're going to exchange things on a technical level, then we're going to make progress together. And I think we should also, when we're writing the proposals, be very, very careful about the deliverables, the public domain deliverables that we want to use, because that could be the basis for this technical exchange. So I'm going to leave it there for the time, but yeah, that's what I picked up on.
Yeah, Axel, I see also nodding with some things. Something you want to add there that you saw?
No, I fully agree with what's been mentioned before. Also, an interesting point was the participation to events. We know that sometimes trade fairs and so on, the fees to get a stand there, it can be very high, like a few €1,000. And of course, when we get public money, we can spend it. But I mean, we have to be, I would say, careful, but as well, I mean, to use it in the best way. So rather than just being part of one trade fair, if we can split the cost between projects and participate to 4 or 5 of them, and also show that many organizations and many projects are together, are finding synergies, it has a much more impactful, I would say, much more impactful output than just going solo on something that is just, you know, at the end of the day, a waste of money. I mean, few €1,000 for one project to present something that could have been shared between others. And maybe on this side as well, I think it was also mentioned brief. I think the creation of, I know the Commission especially, or the EU institutions that are very looking into that, is policy recommendations, policy briefs, and basically what the projects, the challenges and the opportunities that the projects have faced, and how the projects can contribute to the political agenda, or to provide feedback to the European institutions. If we do that between projects of the same cluster, then of course it's a much more comprehensive overview. So that's something also that requires time and I would say synergy and good coordination, but it's something that I think cluster can have a very high added value.
Thank you so much. I'm happy that this has already given you initial pointers for the way ahead, and you can discuss them further at your meeting on the 16th. I want to thank all the speakers who have participated, both in the previous panel and here today. I want to thank again the Respect Project for giving the stage to this very important topic. I think it is also a good remark that I picked up from David. Like, we see everybody is trying their best to create this ecosystem, to make links, to get the experts together on the important topics that need to be fixed, and then go out on the stage together and show what's been done to a wider audience. But we also need to be realistic that this is not an end-all fix-all for all our problems, and it will be beneficial for sharing results. But we don't need to think that it will turn into golden eggs and golden mountains immediately, and deliver on everything that we want. So we need to be realistic. We need to work on it. I'm very much taking also up on the clustering work being done in the other clusters, notably Solid 4B, and also looking to work with them to see how we can get this handbook for clustering up. That would be really great. So thank everybody. And right now I'll give the floor back to the Respect workshop to Justo for the next panel. And thank you all.
Thank you, Wouter, and thank you to the speaker from this panel, but also from the first panel. So thank you, it was very fruitful. So now we propose you a coffee break. So perhaps 10 minutes, maximum 10 minutes, because we'll have some issue here, technical issues. So we come back so at 11:10. Thank you.
Can you hear us? Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Hello, hello. Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Yes, on my side. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, okay, so we'll start. So this the first part of our event. So after presenting so the clustering activities and the interest for these different clusters. So now we have a discussion on the R&D and more precisely, so the importance of the R&D within so the EU battery strategy. So this discussion is called how do R&D projects support the creation of the EU battery value chain and the implementation of the new legislative requirements. As we have been seeing throughout this morning, given the current need of decarbonization, battery represent a key opportunity for Europe. The future will be filled with batteries. The number of electric vehicles on the road, which include battery electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid, is set to rise from 1.8 million in 2019 to 30 million in 2030. Demand for batteries is expected to increase 14-fold by 2030, with the European Union accounting for 17% of this demand. Battery price is expected to fall by 50% by 2030. Demand for lithium-ion is growing by 30% every year, and the number of lithium battery ready for recycling is expected to increase 700-fold by 2040. Facing these challenges, the European Union has decided to introduce a new legislative framework to reinforce the circularity and recyclability of these batteries. Presented in December 2020, the Batteries and Battery Waste Regulation aim to modernize the EU regulatory framework to ensure the sustainability and competitiveness of battery value chains. This initiative is closely linked to the European Green Pact, the Circular Economy Action Plan, and the new industrial strategy. The text introduces mandatory sustainability requirements, such as carbon footprint rules, minimum recycled content, performance, and durability criteria, safety and labeling requirements for the marketing and commissioning of batteries, as well as end-of-life management requirements. The regulation also lays down due diligence obligations for economic operators regarding the sourcing of raw materials. To achieve the development of the EU battery ecosystem, R&D is key. Thus, the European Commission has put a lot of effort on this within the Europe, the framework program for research and innovation of the European Union, and more particularly the established co-programmed partnership BAT4EU. It is a contractual public-private partnership gathering on the public side the European Commission and on the private side DEPA, which regroup all the battery stakeholders from the European research community. The objective of this roundtable is to provide answers to the question, how do R&D projects support the creation of the EU battery value chain and the implementation of new legislative requirements? So for this roundtable, so we invited, and so I thank them, so Clément Siré and Daniel Sios and Rui Duaro. So Clément Siré is a graduate engineer from Renewable ENP. Clémence worked at SAFT as corporate eco-design manager. For several years now, she has also been working on the REACH legislation, all European industry manufacturing, importing or using chemical substances in their products. When she joined SAFT in 1999, she began by working in R&D on material for lithium-ion batteries before taking up her current position in 2007. Clémence is also a member of the Respect Advisory Board. Daniel Sios. He got interested in raw material market and policy during his studies in European affairs in 2010. In his research, he took up the research question of how the EU could ensure supplies of rare earths. At that time, he did not expect that this academic interest would continue in his future professional career. First, by being a consultant on issues related to supply of raw material and performing technico-economic analysis of various innovative projects that gave him an understanding of the industry. Later on, in the public sector at the European Commission that he joined in 2018, is placed at the Unit for Energy-Intensive Industries, Raw Material and Hydrogen in the Directorate General for Internal Market, Industry, Entrepreneurship and SME, the so-called DG GROW. His main responsibilities are EU activities on raw material, particularly for batteries, and EU Horizon Europe Framework Programme, and on research and innovation in the area of raw materials. Additionally, he's doing an executive MBA. Rui Duaro is policy officer in DG RTD, supporting the implementation of the BAT4EU co-program partnership. Being a second national expert, he has previously in the national administration dealing with different European funding instruments for R&D. At a later stage, he was supporting the national intervention in the negotiation of European legislative proposal, including the Fit for 55 package and the battery regulation, among others. So thank you very much to be the speaker. For this panel, so we'll start with the discussion with Rui Duaro from the EC. So it's the first question for you, sorry. How are the SREA objectives defined at the European level? How does BEPA contribute to battery strategy, in other terms, to better reflect the need for ecosystem in the call for proposal?
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation to be here. Also on behalf of my colleague Johan Blondel, which could not join us today. Regarding your question, so BAT4EU is a co-programmed partnership under Horizon Europe, which means that it's an important part of the landscape of our R&D in Europe for the battery sector. Being a co-programmed partnership means that there is actually a co-programming between the EC and the public side and the relevant stakeholders now gathered in BEPA. And this is a very important aspect when we are talking about the definition of the objectives of the partnership and of the strategic research and innovation agenda, which, as you all know, is now under revision and soon to be concluded, or so we hope. Let's see how that goes. The strategic research and innovation agenda will guide the priorities for the implementation of the partnership in the coming years. So the partnership will go inside Horizon Europe until 2027, formally until 2030. But we will be defining the priorities in this SREA, which means that it doesn't define the whole landscape of what's available in Europe, of all the challenges that we have in Europe in the battery sector. For that, we have actually the roadmap, which was developed by Batteries Europe. And so the SREA will define what will be the priorities for the implementation of BAT4EU partnership. The content of the SREA is jointly developed by the Commission and BEPA, and BEPA actually, through its stakeholders, through its members, has the role to define the first draft, to give the first draft. So the identification of the priorities comes from BEPA, from the working groups that BEPA organizes, and listening to the community, to the different communities, and trying to understand what are the challenges there, what is on the table, and among those challenges, which are the ones that can be tackled at European level by a partnership such as BAT4EU. Obviously, then after this first proposal, this first draft that comes from the community, comes from the European stakeholders, we need to start a negotiation process. There is a process inside the European Commission itself. The GRTD does lead this process inside the Commission. My colleague Johan Blondel and myself, we are responsible for managing an internal consultation process within the Commission, where we ask several other members, DG GROW, DG GROW, DG Klima, DG NAIR, so a lot of different stakeholders that do have also an opinion on this, and they do see also, they recognize the importance of the battery ecosystem. They also have the opportunity to react on what was proposed by the European stakeholders. And then we enter into a negotiation between all the DGs and then with BEPA until we reach a final document. This final document will again define the priorities for the coming years, and those priorities will then be translated into calls for proposals, into topics that will be opened with associated funding to which all of you can then apply as this RESPECT project that we are now seeing today. So basically, in a nutshell, and I think this is an important part to stress, the objectives of the SRIA are defined by the community themselves. What we do then at Commission level is to make sure that those are aligned with the policy priorities that are defined at Commission level. So this is basically the process, and hoping that, and actually knowing that this should be a very good way to make sure that we are reflecting the needs of the ecosystem, the needs of the battery, of the European battery value chains in the calls for proposals that are opened inside the BET4EU partnership.
Very much for this precision and how it's built the S area and the different call for Horizon Europe. So the next question is for Rui and also Clemens, but also what are the R&D priority in terms of developing the EU battery value chain?
I think that what is always important in research and development is to try to improve the performance of batteries, be it lithium-ion batteries or even the next generation with the solid state, because as it is energy intensive to mine all the raw materials and to manufacture these batteries, I still believe that in order to have the better performance in terms of carbon footprint of the battery, it will be important to have I should say the first life of the battery as long as possible. And that's why all the performance improvement are welcome, so that once you have put all these strategic materials together, it is important that the performance will last many years, so that, of course, recycling will help to keep these materials in the loop. So I think that the research and development priorities are still to improve the performance of today active material, to see also what could improve the performance, but also the safety in the future. And that's why the solid state battery is a good example of a technology which could at the same time improve the performance of the battery and also improve the safety of the batteries. But then will also come the priorities of recycling this new type of solid state battery. So it's really a life cycle. So the research and development is needed at all stages of the batteries, both for the improvement of the battery material themselves, improvement of the processes in order to manufacture this battery, but also at the end of the life of the battery. Even if the first life is extending, there will be a need to recycle this battery. So new recycling processes will still be needed. So with a focus on both performance and safety of the battery.
Oh, okay, thank you. Rui, do you have something to add?
Well,
so these questions with the priorities or any priority.
Yes. So this has actually, I think we can have three answers. I can have three answers for this question actually. I can have a very the institutional answer. Obviously, the R&D priorities for the EU battery value chain are those that are aligned with the overarching strategies of the Commission, being the most relevant here, the Green Deal and everything it entails, the Fit for 55 package and its implementation, where batteries have a fundamental role in supporting the energy transition by creating safe, affordable, with small environmental impact batteries that supports this very overarching strategy. So this is what one institutional answer we can give here. Then we have a very basic answer, very aligned with what I said before. What are the R&D priorities in terms of developing the EU battery value chain? The very basic answer is, you tell us. That could be a very, very simplistic answer. But then there's the complicated answer. And in the complicated answer, I think an instrument such as BAT4EU, and we also must realize that BAT4EU is one R&D instrument in a landscape of policy instruments at European level, but also at national level. So it's one part of a big machine that is actually working and creating this European battery value chain. But still, focusing on BAT4EU, an instrument such as BAT4EU can actually have two main roles. It can support research and development in areas and technologies where we know there is already a good global competition, and we know that Europe is currently lagging. So we are trying to make up for that, for whatever we still can't do as well as others do. But there is also a second perspective there, the second role of a partnership such as BAT4EU, which is actually the creation of new solutions or new technologies that are not yet on the market, but and so that European players can actually be the first ones on the market. So trying to take the first step into new areas. And these are obviously two levels of priorities that have to be constantly and carefully balanced when a partnership such as BAT4EU is being implemented. This also means that we have to have very good feedback into what is happening actually on the market and on the research and innovation side. We need to understand where is Europe already lagging. For instance, Gen 3B batteries can be a good example, which is something that is it's practically there or almost there, already there, but we know that some other players are doing it better than we do, so maybe we need to catch up there. But there are other areas where we can actually be first players or try to come in as first players. Let's look at, for example, stationary storage, which is actually an area that maybe deserves a bit more attention, even though it's a smaller part of the market. Let's talk about recycling. And the project here today is all about recycling. And this is a very important area, which is still underdeveloped, and all the technologies there are still underdeveloped. Or another issue that may come up and it should maybe have more attention is actually improving the manufacturing process of batteries. We know that most of the technologies we have nowadays in battery productions, gigafactories are basically relying on Asian technology. So what we do, how we produce batteries is not European technology. Is there a way for us to improve that? Can we get European expertise there to improve the whole process? And last, and because as Justo kindly said, being a seconded national expert, I also have to give this priority, this perspective, which is an instrument such as BAT4EU also has the very important role to align instruments at European level, which means that we know that we have a lot of investment being made at national level, we know and regional level. We know that industry itself is investing heavily in research and development in this area, and an instrument such as BAT4EU creates the context, the opportunity for all these players to talk to each other, to know what they are doing and collaborate and aligning their strategies and their priorities.
Do you want to add something else, Daniel?
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. It's difficult to add anything to what Rui said, because I think he gave really a very good comprehensive view from the EU perspective on the batteries and the batteries partnership. Maybe from my side, from the raw materials perspective and from the policy DG, I would say that we took a horizontal approach when dealing with the batteries in 2017 and 18 when we started the activity, and that's why we also focusing not just on cell production or the research on the cells, but also on the full value chain, on the raw materials, on recycling, and on different elements. So this really helps us address the issue in full capacity. And also, as we said, many commission services are involved in preparing the calls for proposals. Also from DG Grow side, from the raw materials unit, we are also consulted on the work program of cluster 5, and there are always there is a call on raw materials for batteries each year. And also, I must say that in cluster 4, the majority of the topics on raw materials are in cluster 4, and we also have activities that relate to battery raw materials. It was mentioned before in the introduction that on the EU side, we provide many different regulations, with the battery regulations, with different obligations on companies. So you mentioned the due diligence obligations, the end of life requirements, the performance, the recycling, the labeling, and actually a lot of these issues we try to address through Horizon projects, also in raw materials in cluster 4. So for instance, we have a call actually now open on due diligence. It's a CSA to identify gaps in due diligence of raw materials, including the battery ones. We also have a lot of calls for recycling, for extraction of raw materials, and also forecasting the demand and looking on secondary raw materials availability in Europe. So this is a much wider activity than just the battery partnership and just the cluster 5, but we try to keep that well aligned and coordinate the efforts between different services in the Commission, but also stakeholders. So that's all for the moment from my side.
So, so the next question.
Yeah, I cannot hear you. I think we lost you.
Yes, we lost Justo.
I see the camera changed.
He will come back. Yeah.
Okay. Do you?
Yes.
Yes. The question. Okay. So it's you can answer all the three.
If you could only repeat the question, because it finished when you started to state your question.
It was so in line with the new regulation, and so what will be the role of the battery passport in the future, and how the R&D project will contribute reducing the environmental footprint of the battery value chain.
Maybe I can start with giving a policy reply on this one, why we have the battery passport. When we started the activities on batteries, it became very clear for us that, of course, batteries help in reducing the emissions with changing from fossil fuels to electricity. But at the same time, we were quite aware that there are other issues that need to be addressed, particularly in sourcing of raw materials and all the production processes and the emissions and the environmental footprint of what happens before the battery is produced. So that's why we put a lot of effort in monitoring the supply chain, the value chain, in performing due diligence activities. So from the policy perspective, it's really crucial for us to know how batteries are produced, because in this way we can further know where to focus our efforts and how to align our activities with also the producers in order to omit any environmental footprint that can be omitted.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yes, Clémence, please.
Yes, one example of R&D project contributing to the decrease of the battery carbon footprint. We focus a lot, most of the time, of the positive active material, either the NMC or LFP and all that. But as eco-design manager, I'm also in charge of the life cycle assessment of batteries. And for instance, the negative active material, which is currently graphite, has also an impact, not as high as the impact from NMC, but it has also an impact. Even if it is not targeted by recycling specific recycling obligations on the graphite, I think that if research and development project can help in recycling this graphite to be used again by industry, perhaps in battery, perhaps not in battery, but at the end of the day, to be able to keep some value regarding this graphite, I think it may help to decrease the total carbon footprint of batteries, at least for generation 3, where most of the anode is made of graphite, something like that. And focus has been put mainly on nickel and cobalt for very good reason. But now that we have industrial processes in order to recycle both the nickel and the cobalt, I think it's also important to focus on other hotspots in the battery manufacturing. Once you have targeted the big hotspot, then you come to the second big hotspot and all that. And I think it's part of the research and development project to help also recycling other part of the batteries in order to decrease the global carbon footprint of batteries put on the market in Europe.
Thank you very much for the insight. And question for Daniel and Rui. What about the current involvement and level of participation of the stakeholders in the different research framework proposal? Have you observed a dynamic ecosystem responding to the calls for the proposals?
Maybe, well, I'll give a first try at this one. So I think we need to realize, we need to be remembered every day, I think, that the battery ecosystem in Europe was practically non-existent in 2017. So we need to give ourselves a tap in the back, all of us, because what we've collectively done since 2017 is actually amazing. And we do see a very, at least from here, from this side, we do see a very dynamic ecosystem. We do see, if we look at the new players that are coming in, that actually they're applying to the calls for proposals. We see new entrants coming in. We see new players, but we also see very existing, very well established, very important stakeholders in European industry and academia that are actually adapting what was their normal competences and their normal areas of business, and they're extending also to batteries, taking advantage of all the competences and the expertise they already had there. So we do see a very good dynamic here. We see it's a growing ecosystem. A good proxy of that, a good indicator of this dynamic is actually BEPA itself, which now has over 220 members, and they're all paying members, which is also a very interesting signal in itself, because it means that those stakeholders are actually very interested in being a part of this, and they're willing to pay an annual fee, a membership fee, which makes sure that they are really committed to this. So we do see a very important ecosystem growing, still growing, and we need it to grow even more because this is a highly competitive area. But so far, the signal is very good. Do we need more? Of course we do. Are we doing good? Yes, we are.
I can maybe complement from the more from the raw materials perspective for batteries. I think we see very growing interest specifically for battery raw materials in Europe, and this also applies to research on battery raw materials for the exploration, extraction, processing, refining, and recycling. So a lot of our projects from Horizon Horizon Europe from 2021, 2022, and now 2023, a lot of them focus on lithium, nickel, natural graphite, cobalt. So we see this is really growing, and we also try to have our steer our calls in a way that they also integrate not just a single value chain like extraction, but also to link with the producers of the raw materials as well. So we want the research projects to actually develop technologies that will be then applied by the industry or by the user of the raw material. Yes, thank you.
Also, a question to continue the discussion. What are the main bottlenecks in the current EU battery regulation? What should be targeted in the upcoming calls for projects? So perhaps we and perhaps Clémence that has an opinion on that.
Yes, in the upcoming calls for project, I think that even if we focus a lot on the battery materials, which is important and fine, I think that the recent PFAS restriction show that you cannot manufacture a battery if you do not have a very stable binder, like PVDF or PTFE, for instance. And I think that not so many research and development projects are aiming at finding a non-PFAS alternative for binders. We believe, the battery industry believes, and PVDF, for instance, are really non-hazardous. But given the fact that they belong to the same definition as PFAS and that some PFAS are quite toxic, they were put by ECHA in the same family, so that there is a very strong ban on PFAS, which is expected. We still believe the European battery industry gave sufficient answer to the public consultations in order to get some derogations, but we will still be questions on the potential alternative to PFAS binders, for instance. Industry has already been working on that, because for the graphite electrode, for instance, we were able to change from PVDF, to move from PVDF to SBR-CMC, something like that. It was not possible to do the same for the positive electrode, and we are still developing positive electrode with either higher nickel content, or so different chemical properties, so that it is not always possible to move from PVDF, for instance, and with sodium ion also. So electrochemistry is giving you some limitations in the potential binders that you can use. So I think it could be interesting, because if we are not able to manufacture electrode, either with wet process or with dry process, you always need something which is keeping all the active material together on the electrode. So this type of project could be helpful, because to me, chemicals management is really important. Battery manufacturers know how to manufacture batteries handling some substances which sometimes are hazardous, which is the case for the nickel compounds, the cobalt compounds, all that. We know how to manufacture that. There is no emissions from these chemicals for the final user of the batteries. But there is still a lot of EU regulations regarding chemicals management, and to me, it's part of the project which may be important in the future. And also for recycling, because we are able to show that there is no emissions of PFAS during battery manufacturing, but the same questions will also come for battery recycling, which is really the life cycle of the batteries. And I think that it will be also important to show that there is no emissions of PFAS during battery recycling, and probably that some research and development project can also tackle this issue, which will be really more and more important in the coming months and years. Thank you.
Something to add from the EU Commission?
Well, I can I don't know if Danielle afterwards wants also to come in, but first, from an R&D, from an RTD perspective, this idea of bottlenecks is always a challenge. Actually, they shouldn't be bottlenecks. They should be actually challenges, and that's what R&D is there for. The batteries regulation was heavily negotiated, and one thing that we have to always realize is it's a progressive. It has a progressive target implementation. So it means that there is some time to adapt and to meet those ambitions that are set in the regulation. And this is very important because the answer to achieve those is R&D. We do know that there are some challenges there. For instance, we can think about the recycling targets for LFP batteries, which maybe they're not a technical challenge in itself, but they are an economical challenge, because maybe there is not so much added value in recycling an LFP battery, which means it will be a cost and not a positive economical outcome. And again, with this example that was mentioned by Clémence on the PFAS, yes, we again on the feedback to policy, on the idea that we need to map out and the stakeholders need to identify what are the issues there. This has been identified. Yes, we do need to support some research. Are there alternatives here? Can we find viable alternatives to this? Or not, or is it absolutely impossible? But this is something that has to be looked at. And this idea that the regulation has to create some ambitions there. It's important that the ambitions are set, and then we need to make sure that R&D is able and is supported to give the appropriate answers, and then to reach the goals that are set there.
Okay.
Yes, I can also complement from my side, from the policy side, on the bottlenecks. I think one of the biggest challenges, I think, are investments, especially in the recycling and secondary raw materials side. In 2021, the European Parliament issued an opinion on the critical raw materials action plan, and then one of the main challenges they mentioned there was creating a market in the EU for secondary raw materials. And this is something that research can contribute to with developing the technologies needed for recycling. However, further, what we need is also ensuring there's also funding for investments in such facilities for recycling. So currently, the Commission this year, with the Green Deal Industrial Plan, Investment Plan, and the STEP platform for financing, we are looking at providing incentives in terms of financial solutions to investments. This is one big activity we are performing here in DG Grow, with other services. The other thing is reaching the market, which was said before by the previous panelists, particularly by the Horizon projects. We are working also strongly with the European Innovation Council that has tools, has programs for market uptake of research projects. Also in raw materials, particularly in recycling, we have included some provisions for 2022 calls and for 2023 as well. So this is something we started to put much more effort on, and I think you will see that reflected also in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next question is, what are the expectations from RESPECT and the other battery projects that we discovered during the clustering event, the previous workshop? What are the expectations from RESPECT and this project for reaching the ambitious goal of the battery regulation?
I think I can start. As it was just said a few minutes ago, there is to me the subject of LFP recycling, and I think that it is important that RESPECT is able to tackle both the NMC recycling together with the LFP recycling. Because it has been shown that the increase of LFP battery on the market is much quicker than expected by many. And these batteries will also come at the end of their life sooner than expected. And even if I fully understand that the main objective of the new material recovery target is only focusing or mainly focusing on lithium, nickel, and cobalt and copper, for instance, it's of course important to have this material recovery level, but you still have to keep in mind that there is still an overall recycling efficiency, and that all the lithium-based batteries are in the same family. So you will not be able to fulfill the 65% and then the 70% of the total recycling efficiency if you only focus on recycling NMC battery. You will need efficient processes in order to also recycle LFP batteries, and LMFP is also coming, and there are a lot of blend of LMFP together with NMC, so that even a battery recycler will not be able to say, I don't want this type of batteries, because you will have inside the cathode both LFP or LMFP together with NMC. So that's why it's important in the RESPECT project to focus on developing really recycling processes which is very flexible to the input materials. Because even if you do not have nickel and cobalt, you still have lithium inside, as it was also just said. And I think that it has to be seen as a positive point from a recycling process to be able to tackle flexible inputs. And electrochemistry is moving a lot due to research and development. And we are not only focusing on only one cathode materials. There will be more. There will be probably also silicium with the graphite. So it's a moving market. It's an evolving market, which is fine, because it will allow better performance of the battery. But at the end of the day, it's more challenging to have a recycling process which is flexible to several inputs, but I think it is needed, and at the end of the day, it will be a big plus for the project if you are able to tackle not only the NMC batteries.
Okay. Some other comment from Daniel or Rui?
I can maybe start from my side. Well, one thing is the technology dimension mentioned by Clémence. From the DG Grow perspective, I can say further that the technology will help us to contribute to the ambitious target of the battery regulations that we discussed today, but also on the targets or the benchmarks introduced by the Critical Raw Materials Act, because we introduced a benchmark of for recycling of achieving at least 15% of domestic recycling capacity of a critical raw material. So, for instance, lithium, nickel, cobalt. If the project can develop technologies that will enable us to increase our domestic secondary production of the battery raw materials, that will be fantastic. So that's something we look forward that the project will be able to develop these technologies and also ensure that these technologies end up uptaken by the appropriate companies that do recycling activities. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Perhaps for the question for Rui and Daniel, what will be the future for the BAT4EU partnership? Will it be prolonged in the next framework program after 2027? It's important for the R&D community, but also for the stakeholders, the industry, the academia.
Well, that's a tricky question, isn't it? Well, as you know, we'll be having European elections next year. We'll have a new college. We'll have new commissioners. We may have new political priorities. What we can expect is, well, assuming or almost being sure that batteries will still be a political priority in the coming years or in the coming decades, we're almost sure that there will also be support for R&D development in the batteries area. And again, as I mentioned earlier, BAT4EU is actually a part of a landscape of funding instruments that is there, that is available at European level, not forgetting even what's happening at national level. But BAT4EU is a part of a larger landscape. And here, assuming that batteries will still be a political priority at European level, what must be stressed that there will be R&D funding for battery development. This is sure. This is probably correct at any given point in time. Now, how will it be supported? In what format? In which instruments? Through each model? That's still to be debated. As some of you may know, the discussions on FP10 have already started internally in the Commission, already some ideas, but there are also many other policy instruments that are being developed now. For instance, you have recently, the Commission has presented the Strategic Technologies for Europe platform, which is in itself an instrument, a different instrument with the different modus operandi, but that will also tackle batteries and support batteries. Very, very recently, actually last Tuesday, so 2 days ago, the Commission presented the recommendation on critical technological areas for the EU's economic security, where it focuses on 4 main areas, but also identifies other 6. And among those 6, which are not the current priority, but may be a priority in coming years, is batteries. So batteries are also included there, which means that, again, coming back to what I said before, we are sure that batteries will be a policy priority in the coming years. How it will be implemented remains to be seen. Does it mean we don't like the BAT4EU partnership? No, it doesn't. It means that it's still in the future. We'll see how it goes.
Daniel, if you want to add something.
Not much from my side, maybe not much on batteries, but maybe I can, from the raw materials side, mention that the Commission published during the summer the list of proposed second wave of partnerships in Horizon Europe. This is a proposed list, and there is a proposal for a co-funded partnership on raw materials, which is currently being discussed with the member states on the final list that will be adopted possibly later this year. And a raw materials partnership could also cover battery raw materials, of course, and that's something to be developed further when the partnership is confirmed and the appropriate strategic research and innovation agenda will be prepared. So from the raw materials, this is what I can say for the future.
So we are close to the end of this panel discussion. Okay, so perhaps a question for all of you. What is at your expectation from the research community in terms of contribution to R&D and industrial needs for the future battery value chains? All expectation.
I can start. There are really, in addition to lithium-ion Gen 3, 1, 3B, and all that, there are already some calls on that. But really, I see the future of the battery value chain dedicated to both solid-state batteries and, for instance, sodium-ion batteries. So it could still be significantly or not, but it has to be to be studied. The recycling processes for lithium metal batteries is not really well achieved today. And sodium ions, some of the positive and negative active material may also have different recycling processes. So there is still beginning of research on that, but less than on current lithium-ion technology. So there could be some need on the solid-state recycling, solid-state battery recycling, and sodium-ion battery recycling, according to me, and still improving the safety of the recycling processes, because yes, with lithium metal, we have to be very careful of that.
Thank you. Some word from Rui or Daniel?
Well, I can try to go next. This is, well, I would say 3 main messages here, and very general, very overarching ones. In terms of the importance of the R&D community, of the research community for this area, one of the main expectations, to take full advantage of the European capacities in R&D and collaborate, which means collaborate cross-sector, collaborate cross-regions, clustering, which was very much focused during today's event, and it was very good examples that we had here today during the event. So this idea that the research community needs to take advantage, and it's doing it, and it should continue doing it, and should be improving on it, and clustering is an improvement, taking full advantage of the size of the EU and all the capacities that the EU has. Then a second message here would be make sure and contribute somehow, because the link is there, and many times the research community is the link between what happens at national level and what happens at European level. Do foster that alignment. Do make sure that whatever happens at European level is also aligned with what's happening at the various national levels, because then we all need to be pushing the same way and in the same direction. And finally, and because this is a temptation that we sometimes see when we see the projects over the years, is do go to market, do try to deploy, do try to identify that when you reach a given result in a given project, maybe the next step in that research area is not a similar Horizon Europe project, for instance. Maybe the European Innovation Council has a better solution for you. Maybe venture capital has a better solution for you. But the movement has to go, especially in this battery field, and considering even the global competition we have, the movement has to go in the direction of market deployment. We have to make sure that we can take advantage of the good research capacities we have and take the solutions to market, and making sure they become an economic advantage for the EU. So do try to identify a path to deployment and not only to the next Horizon Europe project. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much for this fruitful discussion. So we raise a lot of subjects. So for the importance of the R&D, and also we have your expectation in terms of project and area of R&D that will be important in the future to support and to contribute to propose new technologies in order to fit the EU strategy. Okay, thank you very much. Now we'll have some time for questions. Okay, so we have one question for Clémence. How do environmental regulations impact battery manufacturing and disposal processes?
It's part of our daily job at SAF to monitor all the environmental legislations regarding the handling of active materials, of raw materials, then the manufacturing of the battery itself, and then the recycling of the batteries. It was already the case with the previous battery directive from 2006. Now with the new battery legislations issued in July this year, it's covering really all the life cycle of the batteries, what is really new for us, and it was it's not focusing only on the battery manufacturing until the battery recycling, but it starts with the upstream value chain, with the due diligence obligations, and it's quite of some new type of legislations that we have to follow. Because this due diligence is both on a social part, but also on environmental part. And there was quite recently the environmental due diligence guidance from OECD, which was published. So it affects us in the fact that we will have to have much closer relationship with our with our suppliers, material suppliers. And there are really several steps in the battery value chains, and most of the time, the supplier of active material is not the same supplier which is going to extract metals in the mine. So it's really a cascading of a lot of requirements, and we will have a much better transparency of the upstream battery value chain. Which is very good, very positive, but which is quite challenging because sometimes for confidentiality reasons, some data or the provenance of some materials is not always easy to access. But I think that both this new requirement of due diligence on the upstream value chain together with the carbon footprint of the batteries, we were used, of course, to make ourselves carbon footprint calculations for our batteries, but most of the time we were using data from secondary data from well-known LCA database. So in the new battery regulations, we will have a list of mandatory primary data. So we will have to have contact with our active material suppliers for them to give us their real data of carbon footprint for 1 kilogram of NMC, for instance, or 1 kilogram of LFP. And it is also quite new. So the availability of very robust data is new both for the battery manufacturer and both for the supplier of raw materials. So it's challenging and very interesting because at the end of the day, we will be able to really report on what is the real carbon footprint inside the batteries. So it will avoid greenwashing, that we are using the rules that we want. with the new Article 7 of the battery regulations, there will be strict rules so that every battery manufacturer will have to follow the same rules to collect the data and to make the calculations. So, of course, it impacts us a lot, but I think it's much better for the trust of the end user of the batteries in the information that will be delivered into the battery passport. So it's really, I believe that the battery regulation is really a blueprint for other products to come, because the EU is also working on the ESPR, which is the eco-design for product regulations, for sustainable product regulations. And in this ESPR, other products than battery will also have to report on a digital product passport. So I should say we are happy to be the first one. Then we will see how to organize with the value chain to be able to face all these new challenges.
Okay, thank you very much. If there are we'll have to close this meeting. So thank you very much to all the speakers, the speaker from the workshop, and for the first panel and second panel, and also the discussion that we had at this moment with the third panel. So thank you very much to attend and to answer to our questions. So it's time to wrap up this meeting. We hope that today's event's presentation and discussion helps you to understand better the actual challenges of the European battery sectors. This event was the opportunity to know more about many projects, supporting the EU strategy, ambition, and to contribute to build a stronger European partner battery ecosystem. So I will perhaps to wrap up. The main point that had been discussed. So there are a lot of discussions. So I will wrap up in very few minutes. So sorry if I don't have the main point, but so I know it. So thank you to Philips for the presentation of the innovation fund. That it's very important, and it makes the link between the R&D and so the industrial deployment. And so that's very important to know that. So the European Union support this the battery industry. So with the workshop, so thank you with the different clustering activity, Collabat, Soli4Bat, Battery Heroes. So we understand that so many projects are involved in this different cluster. There are a lot of discussion, and that I noticed that there are these hubs, these cluster hubs are important to learn about the other project experiences, to discuss about the challenges, and for example, for the upscaling, and they are not focused only on the technical side, but also to have a global overview of the battery value chains, that it's also coordinate, have several meetings and communications. That it's very important. The second panel, so we have the presentation of the cluster hub and so the importance to go beyond not just only the informing, but about have more on technology, and in order to address also new challenges. For example, the high cost of exploration activities, uncertainty on raw material, and so on. That is important. And one of the main importance of the clustering is to expand the network, organize forum to discuss common issues that have the different projects, and provide joint inputs that could be valuable. And to finalize with after this workshop about clustering, so we decided to have a different subject to discuss today, and so it was the last panel discussion about the R&D project, the importance to support the creation of the EU battery value chain. That's important. So effectively, so we presented that so the importance how the program, the Horizon program has been built. So it's a co-program partnership between the European Union and the stakeholder represented by the BEPA. And so the objectives are defined conjointly. First of all, BEPA initiate the objectives of this program. And so there are negotiations within the Commission to finally propose the different calls that represent in line with different priorities. So to sum up this, so the community is very clearly involved in the definition of this program, and I think it's very valuable for all the value chain. But after, so we have several discussions of the R&D priorities. The R&D priorities could be effectively so related to the material, also the use, and along all the activity along the value chain, the battery value chain, including, of course, the recycling. So and to support the European ecosystem, it's important to support how to support the European battery value chain ecosystem. It's to develop a new solution, not yet on the market, but also to go beyond and to effectively to prepare so the next generation of the battery. Also and the ambition is to try to be the first player in terms of storage, also to improve the production of the manufacturing of the batteries. So also we highlight also the importance of the battery passport. So with the objective of reducing the emission, also to have a good definition of the sourcing of the material. So it's the importance of monitoring the value chain of all along the chain from the raw material to the recycling. So to have a view of how we produce the battery, and also have the and to define also the impact in terms of on the environment, for example, the impact of the batteries on the environment. And so the importance of the battery policy passport is to reduce carbon footprint, but also there are some new area to investigate that has been mentioned by Clémence. So for example, the negative electrode, to investigate more how to recycle the graphite that today is not included in the battery passport, but it's important in terms of CO2 emission. So we discuss also the bottleneck of the battery regulation. the future of the value chain dedicated to the solid state, but also the sodium battery. Also to have in mind, so the recycling of the lithium metal, and also improving the safety of the cycling. So that it's important, but the objective is also to deploy this technology and to propose solution to the market. That the key is important, and when we'll provide solution to the market, it will be important. It will be important to reduce after that our impact, the CO2 emission, and so to fit with the Green Deal ambition of the Europe. Okay, so thank you very much for this discussion. So perhaps we can underline that there are some events that have been proposed and has been presented during this event. So the annual cluster workshop organized by the Cluster Hub, organized 16th of November, and also the side event organized by the Soli for B, so a side event of the Circular Wallonia Days that it's organized 12th of December. I think it will be the opportunity. It will be the occasion to have other view and to discuss technical issues and technical also solutions during this also side events. So thank you very much to all the speakers and also to all the participants of this event. And if you have not done already, please do subscribe to our newsletter and to follow the Respect journey on our social media. To end well this launch event, I will let you with the Respect video. Yes. I wish you all a very good afternoon and a great lunch. Thank you very much.
As the world switches from fossil fuel to emissions-free, electrification and transportation, batteries are becoming a vital tool to facilitate the energy transition. Global demand for batteries is increasing rapidly. Electric vehicles on the road are estimated to be 30 million by 2030 in the EU. In addition, EU lawmakers approved a law to effectively ban the sale of new cars fueled by petrol and diesel in the European Union from 2035. 18 partners from 9 European countries have joined forces to develop a sustainable, safe and efficient recycling process that would contribute to Europe's circular economy, strategic autonomy and clean energy. The RESPECT project is an EU-funded project under the Horizon Europe Research and Innovation Programme and the Batteries European Partnership, which aims to contribute to the European battery ecosystem and to the development of a sustainable battery supply chain in Europe. The main objectives of the RESPECT project are to transform, design and integrate the battery's recycling process, reduce energy consumption, CO2 emissions and costs of the processes in comparison to current recycling strategies. The RESPECT project's ambition is to close the loop of lithium-ion batteries recycling by designing, developing and implementing holistic, innovative, flexible and green recycling processes. This is based on pre-treatment steps followed by full hydrometallurgical and direct material recycling routes while considering environmental, safety and health aspects all along the lithium-ion battery recycling value chain. The main ambition is to put into practice a global process encompassing all the steps via 2 routes, a hydrometallurgical and direct recycling route. Following the adoption of the new EU battery regulation, all batteries collected must be recycled and with mandatory minimum levels of recycled contents in the new manufacturing of industrial. starting light and ignition batteries, and electric vehicle batteries. These are set at 16% for cobalt, 6% for lithium, and 6% for nickel by 2031. These objectives are embedded in a tailored 4-year work plan to develop innovative green recycling and materials recovery processes and support the growing lithium-ion battery manufacturing in Europe.